Okay, so we know the world wants to go down the net zero path. How much will it cost? Well, Bank of America recently released a report and they worked out that about $5 trillion would need to be spent each year for the next 30 years. So that's right, $150 trillion. That's a lot of dough. Now, we've just been through the COVID pandemic and collectively around the globe, roughly $30 trillion has been spent there. So that's starting to, wane off now. That gives you a bit of an insight to the money that's been spent. Now, needless to say, the private sector has nowhere near the capital required to complete this investment, which is why Bank of America, in their report, generously estimate that all or the majority of the funding to meet this net zero target would have to be footed by central banks in the form of tens of trillions in new QE. That's quantitative easing. And since QE is essentially debt monetization, and since $150 trillion in new debt would be pretty devastating across the global economy, we got to work out what's the inflationary aspects. And Bank of America actually also said that under that full scenario where central banks are injecting $5 trillion in new liquidity every year for the next 30 years would result in an incremental 3% of inflation for a good decade. Now, this is inflation over and above whatever is already, coming down the pipeline right now, which we've started to see lots of things explode in price. Which is where we get to the punchline, because what really Bank of America is admitting, this crusade against climate change, and ESG doctrine and the net zero world, etc., is all about greenlighting the biggest QE episode in history. One wrapped up in the noble veneer of fighting for the most important cause in the history of civilization. But in reality, it's just more printing of money. And if that's what they're going to do, well, there's only one asset that I can see that makes sense to own in that new world environment, and that's Bitcoin. So that's it, folks. Net zero, lots of money going to be spent around the world. What do you want to do to make sure you maintain some sort of wealth? Own Bitcoin. So remember that. They're the numbers. All right, we'll keep continuing in our discussion about net zero, because there's some other fun facts you should be mindful about. So stay with me.